Okay, so Fear the Walking Dead is back for its final 6 episodes, Season 8B, following the first 6 episodes, which dealt mainly with Padre and Morgan and the children of Morgan and Dwight and Sherry, and boy, that was a really rough first half of a season. I don't honestly know how they made it even worse than Season 7, which was just completely off the rails with the nuclear fallout and all that just crazy, awful crap. But somehow they did it. They made Season 8A the worst it's ever been. Just constant exposition and melodrama, constant wild coincidences. In that last episode, the mid-season finale, I don't know how many times like a group popped out of the woods with guns and like got the other group to put their guns down, and then like another group would pop out. It almost plays like a parody of the genre. And much of that continues in 8B. Fortunately, Morgan's gone, so we don't have to deal with Morgan or Mo or any of that nonsense. But we get Strand is back, and he has taken on a new identity as Anton, and he has a husband and an adopted son, and they're living in this idyllic community where everything is happy, and they all speak German because these guys are German tourists that were stranded there. With Strand. It's another like perfect community that Strand has helped create. We assume he's been there, for the whole time jump for many years. We learn also that all the side characters, pretty much that they've gathered up to this point, have been killed off screen, which is really something. I didn't really care for any of those characters, like the rabbi or the truck drivers or whatever, but they were with us for many seasons, and now they're just gone. I don't know if that's budgetary or if they just really wanted to focus on the OG cast. June is still around. We see her. No lines, really. Just see her at the end of the episode. Anyways, this community has clearly been thriving throughout the apocalypse for many years. Peaceful, harmonious. They welcome everybody in and somehow never seem to have a bad day until Madison shows up. And as we know, the rule of thumb in The Walking Dead is when the heroes show up to a community, there's a countdown timer that starts. And within hours, days, weeks, but pretty soon, that community goes all to hell. And that is exactly what happens. As soon as Madison shows up here, she's being pursued by her enemies. Strand denies that he's actually Strand. Weirdly, Madison immediately accuses him of lying to the people. She doesn't even bother to try to talk to him in private and be like, why are you hiding your identity? She just throws him under the bus immediately, and he just denies it. But anyways, pretty much this community is screwed the moment Madison shows up. And in no time at all, there's, pursuit, and there's zombies breaking through the walls. And ultimately, Troy Otto from Season 3 shows up. He has survived the hammer to the head and is now the new arch villain for the final few episodes. When he's about to do that, he's about to bash Strand's head in with the hammer, Daniel and June and Sherry and their crew show up with guns. They pop out of nowhere. There's no guards, apparently, watching the entrances or whatever, even though they know that the Daniel's out there. And they save Madison. And then they just let Troy go. They don't, put a bullet in his head or take him prisoner. They just let him go. So basically, this episode was pretty bad. I will say it was better than the first half of this season. I think mostly because Morgan's not around. But it's just all the same crap. It's just constant exposition, poorly blocked out action scenes, zombies just appearing out of nowhere, characters making bizarre choices. Like there's a point where they're trying to get into this room to get away from the zombies, and instead of killing the couple zombies at the door and trying to shut the door and barricade it, they just let the door open and knock over some bookshelves. At one point, Strand stabs a zombie in the chest with his old saber. Surely by now, Strand would know to go for the head. So just all this stuff. It's cheesy, wooden dialogue. Honestly, none of the actors do a very good job. Maybe they do the best they can with the dialogue that they're given, but it just is so cringy constantly. As I said in my last video, they've recycled old footage from other episodes and just spliced it into this one, which really makes me think budget has been slashed. Caught a bunch of characters, reuse old footage. Yeah, it sounds like a budget issue, which is, whatever. I mean, I can't believe this show hasn't been canceled years ago, honestly. So it's amazing. This is like, it's a miracle they're even getting a final season, given how just dreadful it is. I think the core problem with this show is not all this sort of wacky, zany nonsense. Like, I mean, that is a problem, especially the reliance on coincidence. People are just always showing up like, oh, here's Madison just showing up at Strand's door. Oh, here's Troy just showing up. I mean, that reliance on coincidence really robs the show of any kind of tension or plausibility, because it's just like anybody can show up anywhere at any time for any reason. And all these characters who haven't seen each other in years and years and years are just constantly running into each other again, way across the country. Like, it's just, that's one big problem with it. But the other big problem with this show is the fact that nobody seems to interact with one another like actual people. It's so contrived. And like, there's this one moment in this episode where Strand hugs Madison and he's crying. And actually, that was a really nice moment. It's probably the best moment in the whole episode because it felt really real. Like, you haven't seen somebody, an old friend in years and years and years, you're shocked, you don't know what to say, and all you can do is just hug them. And then, of course, that was just tossed out the window when after this nice moment, Strand's husband and adopted son come in and they're like, why is she calling you Victor? And she's just like, he's lying to you. He's a son of a bitch. Fuck this. It's like, what? Like, maybe your old friend who you haven't seen in years, instead of just throwing him under the bus, you would wait. And when you get a moment, be like, hey, what's with the Anton stuff? But this just sets up more of these contrived conflicts, and people just don't act this way in real life. And yes, I know it's a show. It's a show about zombies. But shows about zombies, just like any other show, are better when people act in ways that feel real and natural and organic. And here it's just like people encounter each other, talk at each other, and then stuff happens. There's just no humanity there. This isn't how people actually interact. This isn't how people talk. The people they get to play the extras, or like the guys that come and show up looking for Madison, the acting is just so bad, and the lines they have are so cringy, and just none of it plays out like actual people would converse, would interact, would deal with their issues, would deal with their conflict. It just all feels like it's written by robots or AI, or just by people who don't have any skill at writing actual real human interactions. And so you take that, the artificialness of every human interaction in this show, and you combine it with wild coincidences, and you just get this lifeless, just plastic story that just at no point feels like there's any real tension or real stakes. And that's the problem here. Like, this is the problem we've had with this show for years and years and years, beyond all the ludicrous things like hot air balloons that look like beer bottles, or like the ethanol shit where they don't just like, put water bottles under where the ethanol is pouring out of the truck and they just watch it, and all the other, flying the plane. Like, that stuff's crazy. It's so stupid. But you could almost make a good show with crazy, zany stuff like that if the people in the show actually acted like real people, and the stories were earned instead of just these coincidence after coincidence after coincidence after coincidence. And I'm rambling now. So we have 5 more episodes, a few more weeks until this show is dead and buried, dead and gone. And I admit there's going to be a part of me that misses it, because however bad it is kind of fun to have one show out there that's just so much worse than everything else that I cover. As much as I had complaints about Daryl Dixon, it looks like an award-winning masterpiece when you actually hold it up. When you actually watch an episode of this, you're like, oh yeah, that's better. This is actual garbage. Anyways, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Peace.